Hey, everybody. Welcome to Nerd Side Champs. I am Dan. Next to me is Tim. Down below is Jason. And we're going to be going over Amazon Prime's Reacher Season 3, starring Alan Ritchson. But before we get started with the latest and greatest of our Reacher escapades, I would be remiss if I did not go over at least a couple headlines today in the news. We have to say RIP to the first and best live action Lex Luthor in our lifetimes, at least, Gene Hackman. Mysterious circumstances. I'm sure we'll probably find out what happened in the long run, but at any rate, a fantastic actor. Crimson Tide, Wyatt Earp, Little Bill Daggett from Unforgiven was one of the best roles. Hoosiers, who can forget Hoosiers? And of course, Lex Luthor. You guys want to say anything in the remembrance of the great Gene Hackman?
My favorite Gene Hackman role of all time, Runaway Jury, based on the Grisham novel. Great role. He nailed it. Loved that movie. And probably my least favorite Gene Hackman role, not a famous opinion, but Hoosiers, I think totally an overrated movie, but that's just me.
What? Oh my God. What? Dude, the speech with the tape measure and, how far is the rim from the floor and how far is it in our gym? Oh, dude, Tim.
You got to pass the ball 8 times before you can shoot.
Yeah. And Tim is just too much of an Ohio sports fan to acknowledge a movie about Indiana sports. I think that's what it is. I mean, we are all Buckeye, or me and Tim are from the Buckeye State, but I at least can acknowledge it. I can watch Rudy and not get mad that it's about Notre Dame, that kind of thing. Jason, did you want to touch on Gene Hackman at all?
Hey, I gave him props. I gave him props for Runaway Jury, so we'll just leave that at that.
That's good. Just, man, the best Lex Luthor that we've ever seen on film, and probably will be the best that we will ever see. I mean, that's not a high bar, admittedly, because one of them was Kevin Spacey and the other was Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
So, not a high bar, but man, he was a legend, man.
Yeah. Hey, there was a time when Kevin Spacey, you could say out loud that he was pretty good in a few things. That time may have passed. Yeah, me and Tim will always love Kevin Spacey for being the smarmiest, stupidest sales manager that ever existed in Glengarry Glen Ross.
Absolutely.
The leads are shit.
Who told you could work among men?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So,
I don't care.
Yeah, and we are not going to quote any more of that scene because it will not make it through YouTube. All right.
No.
So anyway.
One more headline this week. One more headline, and it is being disputed by what I wouldn't consider a very reliable source. CNN is saying maybe not, but all other media venues are telling us, ding dong, the witch is dead. Kathleen Kennedy is retiring at Lucasfilm. How excited are we to see this happen?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. It's amazing. I mean, I got so excited. I never do this. I got on Nerd Champs and went live. Yeah, in my car driving at work. I got live and went. I could not talk about it. I had to address it live. It was amazing. So I'm very excited. I don't know who it's going to be that replaces her, but it cannot possibly be anyone worse. So I'm thrilled.
Yeah. How about Jason? Are you excited for?
I am ready to be out of the woke Star Wars. I have been beaten down by most of her Star Wars projects, and it is, man, I'm looking forward to the other side. But we can thank her for putting a chick in it and making it gay.
Yeah. Oh yes.
I'm just foaming at the mouth at the possibility of Jon Favreau, but we'll that's probably not going to happen. But I'm just foaming at the mouth. It's just I'm having a little party in my head. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Let's put our head canon together and just live in it for a while while all possibilities are still
great.
open, right?
It's great. Yeah.
So anyway, back to what are advertised. It is week 2 of Reacher season 3. This week we had episode 4, but last week it was episodes 1, 2, and 3. And even though they drop in the middle of the night or the morning before, we were not able to squeeze in 3 whole episodes last week before we went live. So this week we're going to be covering episodes 3 and 4 of Reacher. Of course, covering Lee Child's novel series starring Jack Reacher. This year's season is based on The Persuader, which I have read. Have you read any of the Reacher books, Jason?
I read is it Killing Floor?
That's the first
That's
one.
the
Yes.
first one.
Yeah.
I've read Killing Floor. That's the only one that I read.
Yeah. This one is a delicate walk for me because having read the book, I don't know exactly like how closely the show is going to follow the books overall. As far as like a bullet point outline, the show seems to be following fairly close so far. We can go over differences that have happened. So I'm trying to mind what I say and not spoil stuff. And just to let everybody know, we do full spoiler discussions and reviews as far as things that have appeared on the show.
Spoilers.
Yes,
for sure.
spoilers. If you are a show viewer and not a book reader, I'm going to try very hard not to spoil things that happen in the book that haven't happened in the show yet. But everything that has happened through episode 4 is on the table. So we have a lot of comments. I'm going to let the comments lead the way. I'm going to load up the first one and we'll all react. Let's see. We got Thug Dog up first. I feel like that's 3 really slow episodes in a row. Episode 2, driving. Episode 3, covering stuff up. Episode 4, flashback. So, Jason, I'll let you go first. How do you feel about the pacing of the first few episodes?
I absolutely love the way that this season has laid out. It's really interesting because I felt like in the first 2 seasons, Jack Reacher is a very reactionary character. So in the first season, his brother dies. He ends up in the town that his brother dies in. In the second season, he's going after the guy who killed his crew.
Yeah.
This season, he's directly almost a cause of everything that's happening, and it's really interesting. It's his mess up that is kind of pushing everything, and I don't know. I didn't think the episodes were slow. I mean, there was enough action in them. And I also think the humor's been pretty good this season too. I've chuckled a couple of times. So overall, I've liked the vibe so far. I guess is
what do you think about the pace, Tim?
I think I think compared to the first couple seasons, I think that might be kind of what they're talking about, because in the first couple seasons they didn't waste any time in having him completely and totally dismantle like a dozen guys in the prison bathroom, or even last season he and Dixon beat up a whole bunch of people in that concrete yard and buried them in the first couple episodes. So there's been really nothing like that. It's been like, oh, they kill a guy in isolation, and it's kind of like a slower thing, right? Like, when he kills Angel Doll, it's just slamming his head against the table, and that was it. When he kills Duke, which we're going to talk about, that was very much just a scene where he walks in a room and he shoots him. That was very much slow as well. So I get what they're saying. Maybe there's not as much like action fight, Reacher taking on a whole warehouse full of bad guys kind of stuff. But I think we're getting to that. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. The only one of these episodes that I thought was really slow was episode 2. Episode 3, I do feel like there was some really, really important stuff in episode 3 and episode 4. I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks, neither is Dan. We always kind of make fun of it. Here comes the stereotypical streaming season flashback, and that kind of is what this was. But knowing what this story is, I think it was kind of necessary to have a flashback episode. So so I'm okay with it, but yeah, I get what they're saying, I guess.
I will say, in season 2, they found some interesting ways to inject some early action, like the whole sequence from the trailer in season 2 with the ATM and is that guy, and he goes and he gets the guy that's carjacking and stuff. That was a total creation. It was not in the book.
Not in the book.
Season is based on. I don't know if it's in any of the books, but that was a really tense action sequence that was just kind of introducing you to Reacher for the season. And so they were able to get that in there. I will tell you that in difference to the book, they are trying to find ways to insert action and fights, because the book is a very slow burn, and it works in novels because you can have psychological drama when you don't have physical drama. Like I had talked about in episode 2, where or was it 3?
The driving was episode 2. Yeah.
Okay, so episode 3 is when he does the swimming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's episode 3.
The swimming is so tense in the book. That is a very intense scene in the book because you're in Reacher's mind, and the water in the book, it feels like it's not wintertime in the show, but in the book it's winter, and it's extremely cold, and he's feeling like he's not going to make it. He's fighting the current. It's a long way. I don't know how you express that in a show. You could very easily express that in a book. I don't know how you squeeze tension out of him swimming on a show. It's hard to show that it's cold. It's hard to show that it's far without being boring, So, these are things that happened in the book. In the book, when he goes back to clean up the mess of Angel and search the area, the FBI agent is not with him. It's just him alone. And he doesn't run into drivers that he also has to fight. So that fight sequence with him and her against those 2 drivers that show up, that was obviously added from the book just so you could have a fight sequence there. And during the flashback sequence, when they flip the buyer, there's no showdown between him and the buyer's security. They flip the buyer at a diner or something. They show up, they set up a fake meet, and they show up and they tell him he's busted. And it's a spycraft scene in the book where they just talk and they flip him and there's no fist fight. So they are trying to interject some extra action that is not in the book to spice it up. Now, the scene where he just shoots Duke, then he makes a ruckus and fires a bunch of shots to make it seem like there were people there, that is straight from the book. Only that is more tense in the book because you're in Reacher's head and he's planning it. Should I go in first? Should he go first? How am I going to get the drop on him? That kind of thing. And Duke is a lot more threatening in the book because Duke is the same size as Reacher in the book, not a way smaller dude that he can easily handle. So let's move on to the next comment. I feel like this season doesn't have as much front-loaded action, but the dialogue and character development have been huge. So that's kind of the thing that we're talking about. They haven't front-loaded it. There should be. I mean, it's kind of obvious. I mean, I'll let you guys say. I know some of what should be to come. I don't know if it will happen, but But I mean, it's Reacher, so big action has to be coming at some point. Yeah. But the dialogue and character development, do you guys feel like it's been clicking along pretty good? Have you liked it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the dialogue's been fantastic, and I think that it's really led to a lot of good character story and development, and I really do think that you kind of really get that this is very much like season 2, where this is personal for Reacher. Every single one of these has something that is just deeply personal and important to him, and that's why he's doing it. And he still kind of gets looped up in this big mess with this whole thing with Duffy and trying to save Teresa and all this, but at the ultimate root of this is it's personal between him and Quinn. That's what this is.
Yeah.
He doesn't give any cares about the drug lord or Beck or anybody else, about him and Quinn. And I think that we definitely got to see that, especially in this latest episode. So
yeah, it's been late. I will say the interrogation scene in this week's episode with Cole, and I know you have to establish that he's very simpatico with Cole. I feel like they could have introduced the other lieutenant. I can't remember his name, but or private. They could have introduced him a little bit sooner, so that somebody could have been in the observation room with Reacher, so that Reacher wasn't just standing there talking to himself like a weirdo. That was
Atta girl, way to go. Kind of stuff. It was
it's only weird if you answer yourself.
I mean, you don't have to talk to yourself in a book because you can have people's thoughts.
What's very interesting, though, is the fact that Reacher definitely has always had these very, very professional only relationships with his coworkers, and he does not let his feelings ever get in the way. I think the exception would be Dixon, but this one so far with Cole, he definitely felt some responsibility for her at almost like a father-like level, you could tell, and that's what this is about. It's a very different approach. So,
Go ahead.
I personally think that that's why this season is resonating so much with me, because literally at its core, from what I've seen, it's Reacher for the first time, maybe in the series that I've seen, it's constantly underestimating the guy he's fighting. So he underestimated Quinn when he told Chloe. Is it Chloe? Who's the girl? The girl that got spoilers killed.
Cole is the one who got killed. Duffy is the agent.
He sent Cole by herself because he's constantly underestimating this guy, even to the point where he shot him and he's like, all right, at least that's over, and he didn't think about the cold water. So cold water has created this entire situation.
He's like Reacher's Moriarty. You know what I'm saying? This is like if Reacher's Holmes, this is his Moriarty. That's
a great comp. That's a great comp.
Yeah.
And Joker.
Well, his Joker. This is his. Yeah, this guy is a
Doctor No. I mean, there's so many, you could go on and on, right? I mean, there's so many of them,
I want him to be my Batman in this new series. So
I will say
we're not allowed to talk about that because Dan doesn't think he's a good one. So
anyway. There's no. I'm not watching the baby. I will say the framing device for giving us the backstory of Cole, and what is the villain's name?
Quinn.
The Cole and Quinn story, the framing device where he's telling Duffy, that's not how you find out in the book, because of course in a book, again, people don't have to talk. You just have the inner monologue. It's just like Reacher thinks about this. You're in Reacher's head, and he remembers that he's not having to tell people. So that's a little different. And actually, that's more Reacher, because Reacher wouldn't normally share this much stuff with these people, no matter how. Now they did write her a good speech for her to demand that he tells her what's going on, but it's out of character for Reacher to bother telling her. You know what I'm saying? So they had to put something in there, but to set up this flashback. I will also say the torture of Cole, they should have went Hitchcockian there, because
I was gonna bring that up as well. I feel like in season 1, do we all remember what they showed us in season 1 in like episode, what was it, 2 or 3, where there was a dude hanging on the wall naked and cut up? Do you remember that? I mean, they definitely did not hold back on showing us stuff in season 1. And so I kind of feel like what we got doesn't give us the full picture of what Quinn is capable of.
Well,
if that makes sense,
the descriptions of the torture and killing floor, the first book, which is
that's
first
what I was
season,
wondering.
the book descriptions are incredibly graphic, and Jason can attest to that.
Yeah.
The descriptions of Cole's torture in the book, The Persuader, are very graphic. They tell you exactly what is done to her and how awful.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And I will tell you, the descriptions in the book, they didn't show us a lot in the show, but what they did show us is enough for me to know that what happened in the show is nowhere near as bad as what happened in the book. Because for one thing, she's still got underwear on when he takes her down.
She's still got like clothes on, right? I mean, it didn't.
Yeah. Well, she's in a bra and
underwear.
Yeah, like an athletic bra and athletic panty in it. But here's the thing. I understand not wanting to be graphic and show us exactly what was done to her. That's fine. But don't show us what wasn't done either. Let the people who've read the book fill in with what they read in the book, and let the people who haven't read the book, because this is what Hitchcock does.
You don't have to show, right?
Yeah.
Reacher can tell. Reacher can tell. I mean, when he was telling Duffy, and that's part of the issue that I had with this particular episode is given what I've seen, Reacher has seen worse than that already in the previous 2 seasons. So why is Quinn that bad? You know what I mean? That's kind of, from someone who's coming at it from just the show perspective, that's the way I saw it. So and I was going to ask you about the description because I figured it was pretty graphic.
Yeah, they should have shown you nothing, because it's like Hitchcock. What you imagine always be worse than anything that they could show you. Well, or even describe. If they just leave it totally to your imagination, like
and there's a show that I used to watch on CBS years ago. It was called The Mentalist. I don't know if you guys remember that show, but one of the very first episodes of that show, they did that. Okay, where basically him just opening the door was supposed to just reveal how awful it was. You didn't get to see it. You didn't get to see anything. All you saw was him opening the door. Yeah. And I think that's probably where they should have left it with Reacher. I'm with you, Dan. Like don't show any of it so that the imagination can run right back. I think they tried to be strategic that way. It just didn't land like they wanted to, I don't think.
For me personally, I think it's the weight of the fact that he's the one who sent her to Quinn.
Yeah.
That to me, because I hadn't read the book, so I mean, I didn't know how graphic the book got, but just from the fact of I sent her to this monster, and this is my fault, which is a kind of interesting. I didn't see that in the other 2 seasons, like where it's directly because of him.
And it is established in the show, but it goes by pretty quickly, so it would be easy to miss. This case with Quinn and Cole is very early in Reacher's military career. This is previous to him setting up the special investigators and having that whole team. Cole is one of the first people ever placed under his direct command. He's recently promoted. This is like one of the first people that reports to him ever. So
I really like that actress too. I don't know her name, but my wife looked.
She did a fantastic job. Yeah. I mean, Miss trying to please, A student, front row, brown noser. I mean, she was right there saying sir, all that. She nailed everything. She did a great job. So yeah,
she sold the intelligence and the competence that would impress somebody like Reacher. That whole thing was very much on the surface. So,
and how you never have to repeat anything, and how all of that, it was all very, very quick right there. I appreciated what she did in this episode, and it's a shame we're not going to get to see her other than this.
She's very charming. Haley says this was like her first big role, so she's awesome.
Yeah,
more stuff.
Okay. Barry Allen is slow. I feel like someone as organized as Beck would check the storage containers for bodies. Now, anybody who's at one hand, that's maybe, but then on the other hand, if you've been to a shipping yard,
there are like hundreds of them, right?
hundreds,
I mean,
and many of them
there
are just derelict, and they've been there like for who knows how long. And Reacher did specifically pick one that looked like it was in the
Like,
weeds,
yeah,
not doing anything. So, I don't know. I
yeah.
don't think they
Who
put it
knows?
in a storage container in the book. It's been a while. I think he puts him in the trunk and drives the car to long-term parking at an airport or something and leaves it
Yeah,
there,
it's
which is, that's what you should. Now, if you're going to kill somebody, folks,
Oh,
best thing to do. Put 'em-
we're definitely not going to get YouTube pushed by giving this kind of advice.
Yeah.
But, it's
Yeah. But, hey, when you're reading those books, long-term parking is a great solution if you want things to disappear. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I do feel like the storage container thing, it was a little it was a little convenient. Hey, but I do think that sooner or later, wouldn't you think that somebody would say, hey, the last assignment we sent Angel Doll on was here, and the last time anybody saw Angel Doll was here, and maybe we should go here since there's a bunch of storage containers. I don't know. But I understand what they're saying. But it is a TV show.
Probably
There's
another
gonna be-
opportunity where they should have established. It seems like fall in this show. Everybody's wearing jackets or shirts. It might be fall, it might be spring. It should be the winter time. Because if it's warm outside, that body's going to start to stink. But if they would establish that it was cold outside, then that would help.
He didn't put him in any cold water.
Yeah, he wasn't any. Yeah, he's learned not to let those bodies be cold, even though he was broken in 3 ways and stuffed under a desk.
You never know, man.
Yeah, you don't want to shock him with any of that cold. John Soto's nothing says Duffy saying she would go to prison to ensure Teresa is found was telling. Lots of guilt there.
Yeah.
Let me point something out and see what you guys think about the difference here. In the book, I don't remember if the girl he's after, I don't remember if the name is Teresa or not. But the girl that Duffy is trying to save in the book is not a CI. Mm-hmm. She's an undercover agent. She's an agent on her team. She is another drug enforcement agent, not some girl that she threatened with prison. What do you think about because in the book there's a parallel in that Teresa, it might have been Teresa in the book too. There's a parallel in that Teresa is someone under Duffy's command, the same way Cole was under the command of Reacher, like a direct report. Whereas like they added a whole other layer of parallel. Now she kind of parallels with Quinn in that she's coercing people to do things. so I don't know. Yeah. What do you guys feel about that difference? Like the decision to change it from being an agent to a CI. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's not a big enough difference that I think it's going to matter. I think they kind of did it just so that it wasn't too parallel. Almost, I almost think that was the reason for the change. I also think that there's also a lot of differences in the lives of agents and the lives of CIs that maybe would make things a little bit more convenient for a missing person, right? For a CI, they typically are, loners, their family has disowned them. There's a lot of that kind of stuff where if they go missing, maybe it's a little more realistic than an agent that hasn't checked in a while. So I don't know. There's a lot of different things about it. I'm not really sure that it makes much of a difference. I'm sure that they're going to get to the same kind of a point, but I think probably where it gets a little difficult is wondering why she cares so deeply about this CI versus someone that would have been under her command, like you were mentioning, Dan. That would probably be the only thing. But Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think just straight guilt. I mean, that's interesting that she was so driven on a point that she didn't care what she had to do to get to where she wanted to get to.
Yeah.
That's kind of I found that very interesting. Where she's a very interesting character. Even though maybe this is a hot take, her accent absolutely makes me want to run my head through a meat grinder.
Well, and she's British. I didn't know this until after
Yeah,
last week's episodes when we were
Taylor told me
filming.
that.
She's British and she's doing that Boston accent. I think that's kind of funny, actually. So,
Yeah.
so yeah,
A lot of the times when they have Brits or Aussies or a French Canadian or something, if you have somebody with an accent and they're trying to play American, they give them a Southern accent or a Boston accent or like a Northeast, like Minnesota type accent. And I think the idea behind that is they give them the standard, what do they call it, mid-Atlantic, no accent, like us folks here in the Midwest speak with. So many people speak with our accent that we hear it very plainly when it's wrong. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But if you're doing a Boston accent, unless you spent a lot of time in Boston around Boston people, if it's wrong, it doesn't really bother you. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
now, Jason, do you know? Did you spend time in Boston, or does it just bug you because it bugs you?
It just bugs me. Like I'm just like I know people from Boston, and they don't
Mhm.
sound like that. They're not like the hava.
Yeah,
Well, and there's a lot of examples that I can think of British actors or Australian actors or whatever, where the reason that their character voice is so distinct is because of that. I think of Andrew Lincoln in The Walking Dead. His Southern accent was very, very overdone, and there were points where it actually became a meme in the midst of the show how he would over exaggerate the syllables of words in order to try to sound Southern because he's British. And then Hugh Jackman, when he did Wolverine, I mean, he very much lowered his voice, and that's something a lot of them do to drop the accent when they're trying to do just a typical accent. They lower the voice. So there's a lot of things that you can tell are sometimes little tells, but this one doesn't bother me. Is it overdone a little bit? It is, but it doesn't bother. There are so many other things that I could be upset about. So I'm just like, that one's all right.
She's in one of those Ben Affleck Dunkin' commercials.
Yeah, yeah.
Dunkin', let's get some coffee.
My guy's wicked smart.
Wicked smart. I pick up some Dunkin'. I'll meet you by the harbor with some coffee.
How do you like them apples?
Yeah. She's got to say that by the time this series is over with that accent. She's gonna be like, "Hey, Reacher, you like apples?"
So I had two thoughts about her. At first, I thought before we found out the backstory, I was like, does she have a thing for Teresa, and that's why she's so? Then she was kind of checking out Reacher also when he was coming. Like she peeped over her shoulder,
Yeah.
and Reacher's got to hook up with somebody once every season.
It's gonna be the French maid. I can just see it. It's gonna be the French maid. Okay. Someone that can die and we won't care about, but is clearly attractive. It's gonna be the French maid.
I wish
Okay.
there was a chance that it be the older maid.
Yeah.
The one that's like, wipe your feet every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I will say, book spoilers for people who ever want to read the book, right? Mrs. Beck was an attractive woman who was not dead in the book. She was a character in the book, but Reacher did not hook up with Mrs. Beck. So I think that made it easy for them to say, like, oh, hot chick that Reacher doesn't bang. We need her out of the story. No,
completely get out of here. Right.
Wait, this hot spouse doesn't kick her husband to the curb and just jump on Reacher? No, she can't be in the show.
But
Lee,
yeah,
what were you
I called
thinking?
it Duffy. I saw Duffy take a look. She lingered.
Yeah.
She,
Yeah.
she just,
They had a story meeting. They were like, Lee,
Yeah.
why doesn't the wife sleep with Reacher? What's going on? What's wrong with you, man?
kill her. Put her up under the ground.
Yeah. Thug Dog says, does anyone think Reacher is unnecessarily in his underwear a lot? This is where we need a female on our panel because she would explain to us that it's never unnecessary for Alan Ritchson.
I was going to say that they are expanding their audience quite a bit by having Reacher in his underwear a lot. That there is no doubt about it. Where a male-dominated audience all of a sudden has become a male and female audience because they constantly show the physique of Alan Ritchson over.
Jonathan May watch this show.
Yeah. Jonathan May. Well, and you know what? This harkens back to, like we were saying last week, somebody in the comments talking about this being like an 80s action movie. If you went to an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or a Sylvester Stallone movie in the mid to late 80s through the early 90s, it didn't matter what they were playing. It didn't matter what the movie was about or what was going on. At some point, you had to figure out why and how they were going to remove their shirt because that was happening. It didn't matter. That was happening. You know, fighting alien predators in the jungle, shirt has to come off.
Pop that shirt off.
Yeah. Teaching kindergarten to little kids because you're undercover, shirt has to come off, you know?
And the only example I can think of is when he was Mr. Freeze. I don't think he took the shirt off, but that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. So
you see, that was late in the game. He was getting smaller at that
that
point.
was that's right.
Yeah, that's when you
cycling off.
You transition to shirt on Arnold, and that's the thing. When you
Joel Schumacher didn't get the memo. That's all there was to it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's definitely the ladies have to be appeased. And also, I will tell you, in the books, there are a lot of pages dedicated to Reacher and how big Reacher is and how impressive his body is and how shocked other people are about how big he is and stuff like that. So
the sinews and the crevices of his I mean, I can only imagine. So we're gonna just like
it is part of his character to be like so hyper confident that like it throws other people back, you know, that he just doesn't care, you know, he'll just like walk through town naked. I
think the scene with Duffy is one that like makes sense. It's like, okay, he just got done swimming, so you know he took his clothes off, you know. But like when he answers the door when the French maid's there, I mean, any normal person would be like, hold on, let me throw a shirt on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Dude, if I looked like that, I would not.
Yeah.
Like, I work out a lot and I wear tank tops. If I looked like Reacher, I'd be doing every one of these with no shirt on.
Yeah, just be walking around. You see, every time you saw a sign that said no shirt, no shoes, no service, be like, well, I'm not shopping here. They do not want my business. You know? Oh, Duke not thinking Reacher would kill him was classic. That it's always fun when you've got an anti-hero and the people are banking on them having the classic hero tropes.
You're a cop. You wouldn't do that. I mean, you know, it's like, dude, you know, if you're gonna call someone if you're gonna do the Marty McFly chicken thing, make sure you got a chicken. Okay, you gotta make sure. You got to make sure you got a chicken if you're going to do the Marty McFly chicken thing. But Reacher with a gun to your head alone, what did you think was going to happen? I mean, you know, I don't know.
Actually, sir, I'm a vagrant. That's what I'm a modern day hobo. So you are not safe. And when I was a cop, I capped a guy with a 22.
Exactly. I mean, you know, well, this is going to surprise you. It's like Jules in Pulp Fiction. This is going to surprise you, but this isn't the first time this has happened. Okay, like, you know, I've had several conversations like this, so you know, it was kind of funny. So,
Yeah.
and they I feel like they did kind of nerf Duke a little bit. I think they could have beefed him up. I think they could have made him a little more intimidating, and I think that scene could have been a little more tense.
Well,
But
you got the bigger
oh well.
guy already. You've got that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
I'm waiting for that. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
they got Paulie, and
Paulie.
Paulie was
Mhm.
way bigger than Reacher in the book as well. But Duke was like similar to Reacher size in the book. So like it was two big dudes against Reacher, not just one big dude and a little dude against. So like Reacher, the deck was stacked more against him in the book, I feel like, because
Mhm.
but anyway, I Am the Night says, I am still not into it. So many things conveniently moving the plot forward. Lots of predictable things they're setting up. So I don't know what I Am the Night thinks will happen, but what do we think? Now, I know what happens in the book, so I'm going to try to stay away from speculating.
I mean, I think the
can't-
only predictable thing that they've set us up for right now is the bodyguard overpowering the little Doogie Howser agent. When they're that clearly is going to happen at some point, right? I mean, you got the little Doogie Howser agent, you've got the dude that clearly is, more capable than him, and they're going to be alone at some point in the house. They've already set up that he's probably going to have a way to get out. I feel like that's probably coming in. So that's pretty predictable. But other than that, I can't really see a lot of really super predictable stuff. I don't know what else he's talking about then. So
yeah, they are leaving that agent alone with the guy a lot. I don't remember that much in the book.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
He's asking if he can have a cigarette.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
Last episode, he literally popped in for a second and was like, "Hi guys, still with him."
Yeah, yeah. Still me and him sitting in this place, I love how she cites him with he's like, "Can he have a cigarette?" She goes, "What's it say in the manual?" Well, actually, in the manual, we're not supposed to illegally detain someone in the cabin with no charges for an indeterminate amount of time. So we're kind of off script here, boss.
Maybe let him have the cigarette, man.
Yeah. You could let him have it, or maybe just light one and start burning him with it. I don't know. You're completely out of the manual now.
What's the manual say about blowing up a block and faking a kidnapping and doing, I have a feeling the manual says that police chase scenes and all that, they're probably frowned upon. But
yeah. So let's see.
As I watch the show, I cannot help but wrap my mind around that someone read these books and said, Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back. It wasn't someone who read those books and thought Tom Cruise.
It was Tom Cruise.
There we
Tom
go.
Cruise.
That's who read the books and thought, hey, Tom Cruise was sitting at home and was like, who'd be great in this? And he didn't say
Tom Cruise.
Tom
Cruise went to David Miscavige's office and he said, David Miscavige, I don't think I'm tall enough. And he said, no, Tom, you're very tall. We've had this discussion several times. Okay. We've had this discussion several times. You're very tall. Okay. Speaking of which, Dan, did you watch the Top Gun Family Guy yet? Did you watch it?
I have not. I didn't.
Okay. The Tom Cruise height is mentioned at least twice. I think it's maybe more than that, but it's mentioned at least twice, and lots of Scientology jokes. So it's great. Yeah. So anyway,
I gotta the Tom Cruise forever passed for Tom Cruise, not for being Maverick, not for being Mission Impossible, but Les Grossman. So Tom Cruise gets a forever pass for his role in Tropic Thunder.
I will mess you up.
Yeah. I will mess you. Yeah. That
you don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah. I've been watching, I don't know, for some reason in my feed it keeps popping up the Les Grossman stuff. And Tom Cruise told Ben Stiller, he read the script and he called Ben Stiller, he goes, I need fat hands. And Ben Stiller's like, what? He's like, I need fat hands. And he's like, we don't need makeup. You could just play this part. He's like, no. I need fat hands, and I'm going to hip hop dance.
That's funny.
So all of that is straight from Tom Cruise. Like he said,
That's great.
like I saw the interview, he does things because he thinks they might come in handy later. So he'd taken hip hop dance with nothing specific in mind. And when he read the script, he's like, I need fat hands and I'm going to do the hip hop dancing. So anyway,
Yeah.
Quinn is definitely a scumbag. I do feel like they held back and showing what he had done to Cole. If it had been shown, I think the audience would have had a better idea of what he is capable of.
Yeah, we touched on that. I mean, I feel like that's pretty much it. I think that was the big miss of this episode, I think, was showing us basically her being suspended in a very stereotypical spy torture way. I think that is not how I pictured what Quinn had done to her. And honestly, I expected when he opened the door, I was at the gym when I watched this, just so everybody knows. I was expecting to have to shun my phone. Okay.
Yeah.
I was expecting to have to be like, I don't want everyone to see this kind of thing, you know? And the fact that it wasn't like that, kind of was a little disappointing because it did kind of nerf the character of Quinn a little bit. It feels that way. So,
I feel like you definitely could have just went with the shot of the feet with the blood dripping off the feet. You could have had a shot of Alan Ritchson turning white, like the blood draining from his face and looking utterly devastated. And you didn't have to show us anything else. And then we could have filled in how totally awful it was. Like, don't even show us her hands. We don't need to see her face or top of her head, any other part of her body. We could just imagine horrors. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to have do you want to have the main thrust of what the book described of what he did?
Oh,
yeah, go ahead. I mean,
in the book, it is described that he gave her like a double mastectomy while she was alive.
Yeah.
He cut her breasts off, and they were there, and that was the main thing that I remember. There was various other tortures, but
and in season 1. All right, they had the same kind of thing happen, but it happened to a guy. Okay, I'll let you fill in what happened there. Okay, and they showed it. Okay, and the fact that they showed it made you feel like, oh, so that's how serious this is, kind of thing. You know, right now I'm kind of just, like I said, it looked like stereotypical cinematic torture. That's what it looked like.
I feel like a lot. Now, maybe you guys. I feel like, in a broader sense, a lot of premium networks, not just Amazon, but even like Max, Stars, a few of these other networks, with their new shows and with continuing seasons of shows that they've had, they're trying to dial back the gratuitousness. They're taking out nudity in shows that had lots of nudity, like seasons are coming out where there isn't any. They're taking out graphic violence. I feel like they are trying to be budget conscious about creating versions of these shows that can be re-aired and replayed on basic cable to generate
revenue. Dead on. Yeah. You're dead on. You're dead on. You can play seasons 2 and so far season 3 of Reacher on another network somewhere. You could not play season 1 on basic cable anywhere, and that's the thing. I mean, not just the nudity, not just the gratuitous violence that we talked about. The language seemed to have been dialed up in season 1 a little bit more as well. To me, I'm with you, Dan. I think that's kind of the end game for this whole thing.
Are they cursing in this season?
They are. They are. I mean,
okay.
They are. You know, they're definitely still doing R-rated language. There's no doubt about it. But it's not to the level that it was in season 1. I would like to see if there's an F counter somewhere. I'll bet there's an F counter. And season 1, I'll bet it's maybe 3-1 for what we've seen from the season.
Definitely.
So
and the thing, R-rated language is They get away with that on basic cable after a certain time now.
Like 10 o'clock, 10
Yeah.
o'clock, you're allowed a certain amount of F words and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I definitely have noticed that it's still R rated, but it's not near as it's not near as bad as it was in season one. And so that makes me think that they are trying to probably get it to the point where they could release it later or sell the rights to somebody else later and they could air it or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, my advice is if you're going that route, if you can't show everything, then don't show anything. Just show just enough to let our minds run rampant with horrible things, leave it to where every horrible thing you can imagine is still on the table, is what I would say. If you don't want to show us horrible things, then let us imagine horrible things and don't let us remove any of those from being a possibility would be, I think, a better move than just like, because really we don't see the front of her, but when he's taking her down off those hooks, we see her whole back, like not like close up, but like we know that nothing happened to the back of her. Like she hasn't been whipped with a whip or something or cut on her back in any way. She hasn't been like raped or anything. You can't put that in your head because, like, what do? Rape her and then put her sports bra and panties back on? I don't think that got, so all these horrible horrors that you could imagine are being crossed off the list. Oh, well, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't do the other thing. And you could still fill in quite a few things, but and you kind of get a little bit of her face, not like a good look of it, but her head's not, her nose is, you see that it's not bloodied or broken.
She had all her toes when we saw her feet. We didn't. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have been done that weren't done from the work of camera angles and other things that we could have seen some worse stuff with what we were given, and we weren't. So I'm with you, Dan. I think they showed a little too much just because now it kind of doesn't make Quinn seem as, to me, he seems like a lesser version of people that Reacher has already gone up against. That's what it seems like so far. So
yeah. And in the book, I will say another difference in the book is when Reacher finds Cole. First off, when Reacher finds the house where Cole and the other guy were sent to arrest him, he's alone. He's not doing a raid with a bunch of other guys. It's just him. He gets there, sooner. He goes straight to where it was supposed to be in a hurry. But Quinn is not there when Reacher finds that guy. And then when Reacher finds her, Quinn is not there. Reacher has to hunt Quinn down on his own time, on his own time. He does some like super cool detective work because he's Reacher and he can find anybody, and he hunts Quinn down like a couple years later and kills Quinn in the book. This is how it happens in the book. Like, Quinn gets away and then Reacher hunts him down and tries to kill him, fails to kill him, but shoots him and drops him in the water. So that's another big difference.
Big mistake. Cannot cold water.
Yep. Yeah. No cold water.
And anybody who's shot a 22 before and has shot a critter with a 22 before knows that a lot of critters live after you shoot them with the 22. Okay. It is, I mean, and probably the most famous assassination attempt involving a 22 happened to be the Reagan assassination, and Brady did get shot in the head and lived. So, I mean, there's definitely a plausibility to it when he said that it was a 22 that there wouldn't have been with anything else. If that's a 9mm, there's just no way. Okay. You know what I mean? So I think that's where that anybody who's familiar with guns knew that was a very, very plausible result. Okay. So
what are we thinking about what's going forward, like what's going down with Duffy and her Indian partner with the guys showing up. How do you guys?
Villanueva, is that it? Villanueva, right? Is that
Is that his name?
I believe that's his name. Yeah, he clearly does not trust Reacher, which I think is a pretty typical thing. There's always one guy that doesn't trust Reacher. Oh, he kills too many people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's always one guy, but he's willing to do whatever for Duffy. I think that was a pretty interesting thing. So as soon as she said, "This is what we're doing," he says, "Then that's what we're doing." And I think that's a telling thing. She's clearly, her team loves her, and that's good. So yeah,
he's going to die. Like that guy is dead.
Yeah, I mean those two guys are about to get the drop on them. You know, so
that's right. Yeah, that's right. They're both going to die.
If Reacher, like, or not three guys, didn't three dudes just show up? That's how many it was, right? That were getting ready to go into the warehouse.
Three guys.
All three of them are dead. Yeah.
And Reacher is way behind. And if Reacher kills all three of those guys, I don't know what he's telling the Becks when he gets back. You know?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Everywhere Reacher goes, he's the only one who survives.
Yeah. It's like this is so weird, man. You were the last one to talk to Angel. You were the last one to talk to Duke. You were the last one to talk to those three guys about the laptop. I mean, there's something not adding up here, buddy. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. It's really funny that like I said, someone as connected as Beck, you would think that he would do a little bit more homework before he's just like, "You're my number two." Boom. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So
I don't know.
Do you think the Sun makes it all the way to the end of the season?
Yeah. What's that?
The Sun?
The Sun?
I don't think the Sun does. I think he's dead too.
Richard, is that his name? Richard?
The ear.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Or lack of ear.
I feel like Richard is kind of like a red herring story. I don't think it really has a lot of importance right now, but I mean, I could be wrong. I feel like the other characters are the ones that are a little bit more important at the moment. But come to think of it, Reacher teaching him how to punch could come back to roost. That could be a thing where he ends up punching a guy when he needs to. So I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe he just knocks Polly straight out.
Wouldn't that be? I would hate this show if that's how this ended up. That this 110-pound kid walks up to this behemoth and just knocks him out cold. That would just be.
It would be classic.
That would be Kate Bishop. That would be Kate Bishop in the Kingpin all over again.
That would be Reacher for modern audiences, Tim. It would be Reacher for the modern audience. She didn't just punch Kingpin, Tim. She zapped him with it. How many times we have to go over this? Of all the things that Marvel has done to make you upset, some of them were just not.
Hey man, it was like her first week as a superhero, and she was awesome beating up that 400-pound guy that clearly was a martial arts expert. She was awesome.
He spent about 20 minutes throwing her around the room, and then she tased him. Basically, is what happened. So I don't.
But anyway, Richard and Polly, it would be a mismatch on those proportions. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that would be fun, though. I want to see.
Yeah, that's now what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, Reacher did not give him the advice he needed to give him. Reacher needed to be like, your size, your power.
Just don't fight, man. Just don't fight. Yeah, go for the nuts and get out of there. Yeah. Okay, you don't need to be fighting
and run away. But
yeah, if you want to learn how to punch somebody, that's like Reacher learning how to do ballet. It makes no sense, man. Just don't fight. That should have been the advice. Don't fight.
He needed the first rule of Zombieland. Cardio.
Yeah. That's right. Cardio.
Cardio,
double tap, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Memorize all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen the trailer for that new Robbie Malek movie where he brings down the terrorists with his hacking skills?
No,
I have not seen that.
Yeah, it's very Reacher like kind of like
Oh, hey,
it,
uh,
terrorists kill his wife and he uses hacking skills to kill people.
now me and Tim are both too cheap to not have commercials on our Prime. Do you have commercials on your Prime, Jason?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Did you guys get any of the trailers for the House of
House of David.
David, the House of David?
Yep. Yep.
I've seen it. I didn't get a trailer for it. No,
Yeah.
I was
think
gonna watch it either tonight or tomorrow. But
I
I
have
have
a
not
House of
watched
David
it yet.
theory. I have a House of David theory.
Okay.
Amazon is tired of paying for the rights to IP.
So they're gonna take public domain.
Yep. They're like,
And they're
Is the
just
okay.
Bible public
nobody
domain?
has the rights to
Yeah.
the Bible, so
Yeah,
we'll just
that's
go
like-
ahead and make as many.
Yeah.
But actually, this is very interesting. I was trying to look it up earlier. I don't know how the TV rating is going to be for this.
For Reacher?
I mean, no, for House of David. That's the thing that I couldn't find. So I don't know how fantasy epic they're going to go with the violence. Like, are they going to go Game of Thrones violence? Because they're talking about battles and stuff.
They could go Passion of the Christ violence, Tim. They
yeah, I mean, if I don't know, because
but hey,
he does some pretty graphic stuff to Goliath. So I'm very, very interested to see what they do there. So
now here's the thing: if the Amazon executives thought that the Tolkien purists got upset about misinterpreting their books, they got a whole new level of shit coming their way. I'm telling you right now, they are not ready.
yeah. There's, I mean, like here's the thing. Here's the thing about biblical stories. Okay, when you're gonna do biblical stories, particularly biblical stories that are very, very well known. All right, like I don't know if you guys ever saw the Noah movie, but like what in the world? Who sold Russell Crowe on? I mean, it was atrocious. It was awful.
Yeah, it was awful.
And it, like I said, I understand people wanting to kind of put a little bit of a new spin on things here and there, taking a few liberties, those kind of things. But yeah, I'm very interested to see how closely they follow. I'm closely to see what the rating is going to be on it, because when we're talking about battles, I mean, battles are violent. That's just all there is to it. And if you don't have violence, I don't think you have a realistic battle. So I'm very interested to see what they do.
The Goliath effect looked impressive. I thought the scale and the size of Goliath was pretty cool.
Well, and the thing is, that that's probably only the first episode, because there were tons of chronicles of David that are just as exciting. I mean, and are going to be very, very interesting. So that Goliath thing is probably only the first episode, and then there's going to be a whole.
Are we going to get Bathsheba?
Ooh,
yeah, I think they toyed with that in the trailer a little bit. I think.
So now that is really gonna take your biblical purists and make them very upset.
It is. It is, because there's a lot there that that you need to examine about what's realistic and what's not. And look, I mean, things can be implied, but they without being shown, as we've just talked about. But things happened. I mean,
It did happen.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that you just can't skip over. But the whole thing with the whole tension between him and Saul, I mean, that is very Game of Thrones level stuff. I mean, it really is. And so it would make a fantastic season if they're going to do it that way. And I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what I think. I'm going to watch the first episode here.
Tim, if they go off book on this, you're going to be worse than the toll controls. I mean,
unless they do what they did with Noah, where they add they added the weird mud lump creatures to help him build the ark. It was really weird. So there was just a bunch of stuff like that where it's just like, okay, but I feel like they're not going to do that, just based on the feeling I got from the trailer. I feel like they're going to go standard fantasy epic with this, which is I think what they've needed to do with a biblical story for a long time. It hasn't been done that way. You haven't got a good fantasy epic since what? Maybe since the Ten Commandments. I mean, that's probably the last one.
Man, I love to watch the Ten Commandments.
That's probably the last one where it was that good, So
good.
Prince of Egypt, the animated.
Yeah, Prince of Egypt. I mean, there you go. Which is the Ten Commandments story.
Did you? I didn't watch it. Did you guys watch? Was it Exodus?
It was no good. I didn't like it.
Yeah. That was what Christian Bale was in that, right?
Christian Bale. Yeah, Christian Bale was in that one. And then, there were some others that have been sprinkled in from time to time, but they don't really. I feel like either they make it too like clean where it's not believable, or they go over the top with just making it a completely different story, like they did with Noah. So anyway,
Noah is actually trying to murder people because of overpopulation and global warming.
Well, not only that, but
message of the movie.
Well, not only that, but then there was a guy that stowed away on the ark and tried to kill everybody, and it was just weird. The whole thing was weird.
That's
I kind of got this book of David just from the picture. I haven't seen the trailer. It's kind of like, I thought it was like a prequel to the Chosen show. You see that?
No, it's not related to the Chosen at all. Yeah,
I didn't know, but they kind of look the same from the picture. So I was like,
it looks like a full-on. It's not like a what do you call it? It's not a documentary or anything with like interviews.
No,
and stuff.
There is a documentary that they're releasing at the same time, though. There is one, but it's not that. Yeah.
And we got Daredevil dropping soon.
What's it?
Good time. We got Daredevil, David, Reacher.
Yeah.
Good time to be in that.
I'm just still saying, man, Amazon, if you thought people were mad when you ignored the Silmarillion, you just ignore the
I will give my opinion next week, Dan. I will give you my
ignore the Old Testament, because now let's remember, folks, the Old Testament is the building block for not one, not two, but three of the world's largest religions. So David is not just important to the Christians, he's important to the Jews.
The Jews,
the Muslims, and if you mess this up, they're all going to be mad at you. So,
this is the thing that unifies us all.
Yeah. There's a lot more Jews, Christians, and Muslims when you add them all together than there are Tolkien purists. Okay. Just telling you, there's a lot more Old Testament scholars than Silmarillion readers. Okay, so you got.
That's right. There are.
You got to try to get this at least a little right. I'm not one of them, but I know they're out there, and I know they're really dedicated. Sometimes they even fight about who's right. They've been known to disagree with each other.
Just a little bit.
So you're gonna have to chart this path carefully. Is all I'm saying.
Yep.
But anyway, Reacher so far. Oh, Jason, I did want to we'll hit it next week. I want to go into comparing this season to last season.
Okay.
I think you've got the one of the hotter, but like it's out there takes that we haven't really touched on. A lot of people were disappointed with season 2. I feel like you were more disappointed with season 2 than we were, but running short of time. Maybe if you can come back next week, we'll get into into your comments season 2. So anyway, where can people find you on the internet, Jason?
Jason Golf 413 on Instagram and at Explains Jason on X, which I started using for some reason.
And me and Tim are the Nerd Champs. You can find us here on Nerdside Champs. You can find us at Nerd Champs. You can find us at ADHD Nerd Champs, where the little short things are. We're on the Facebook, the X. We're sometimes on the Instagram. We're old, so we don't understand. So we try.
I'm never on it.
So. Yep. So, and we're on the X too. We're on the X, and you might find us commenting on something you did, because we try to troll as best we can on the X. That's the funnest part of being there. So anyway, until next time, we'll see you next week. And